I'm your host, Josie Way. Co-hosting with me this week are Ken Demers and Kathleen Medeiros. Our guest is multi-talented, but she works primarily through her organization, the Southern New England Paranormal Society, is it? Team. Okay. And that should tell you a little bit about her. Usually we ask, what got you started in this? But the question I was dying to ask you was, did you ever imagine when you were growing up that you would be doing this? And we both laughed because I didn't imagine I would either.
No, you never know what's going to happen when you're younger and all of these things start happening. And
yeah.
So my answer would be no, I could have never imagined I'd be doing this.
Yeah. When did you actually start to realize there was more than one world?
I would say when I was 12 years old. We had moved into a new home, and we walked in, and I looked upstairs, and I said to my mom, there's a woman that's floating from your room to my other sister's room. And she's like, oh boy, we need to talk. So that was my first experience. Moved into a home.
Was your mother mediumistic?
She was, but it was never really brought to light. You know what I mean? Like, it was always, everything was hush-hush back then. You know, they didn't talk about things. It was brought up only when I brought up, but my mother passed at a very young age, so when I started really coming into my gifts, she had already passed, but we actually shut it down at a certain age because I was experiencing...
Catholic Church?
No, my mother was actually like Protestant, Baptist, Southern Baptist.
Yeah.
So we didn't talk about things like that, and you know, she helped me with other things, like more of how to heal, and while I was younger with Bible
So she had gifts too, so it's kind of a little bit hereditary type stuff.
Yes, but I never knew it was, you know what I mean? It was never explained. It was never brought until I got older.
Oh, you never were told why? It's just what happened in the family?
Yeah, not really told why, or that other family members that it would happen to also, but it was nice that my mother listened to me and that she, you know, didn't try to medicate me or anything like that.
Yeah,
that I was able to go to her for everything with questions, and, you know, she talked me through it and helped me and told me what to do, and so, yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. I found, for me, it was a surprise when I found out other people didn't have this gift.
Right.
I thought everybody had it. I thought it was normal.
Right.
You know, and then you find out usually in your preteens or teens that it's not normal.
Right.
You know.
Right. And I think that's why it wasn't talked about, was to, you know, not say, oh, don't go to school and tell people that you see, you know, people that aren't living or anything like that. You don't talk about things like that. But she never made it like it was, you know, you shouldn't hush-hush. So I didn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
Where it was.
She didn't make a big deal out of it when she told you.
No, she didn't. So I didn't think that there was anything different about it.
Yeah.
At
you
all.
just thought it was normal, though, because your mother was aware of it, too.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, do you have children?
I do. I have a daughter and two stepsons.
What's the story with her?
She is gifted. She actually is, but she's a little bit afraid of it. When she was younger, she saw a lot of scary things, just like when I was younger. So we shut it down at a certain age, and you know, I told her when you were ready, and you know, you could just open it back up. So it comes back. She's very intuitive and things like that. She just doesn't utilize that because I think it kind of scares her because she sees things that we go through, that I go through, and she's like, yeah, I'm good.
My granddaughter, when we were playing on the bed one time, she looked over and said, what's that, over towards the doorway, and she went scooting around the other side of my knees and said, it's gone, and then she kind of snuggled up in my arms, and whatever it was, an angelistic type thing maybe, I think it kind of scared her. So basically for the last 4 or 5 years, she's 9 now, and I've been teaching her more healing than that stuff.
It's great.
It's the
It
same
really
energy,
is.
kind of.
It really is, but it's great that they have someone to talk to them about
That
it. It's
support
so
system, yeah.
important. It's so important.
She likes to go to the Reiki shares.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, our guests have tuned in, and they've heard that you work with the paranormal, and we haven't discussed that at all. They want to hear it.
Yeah.
Tell me how you founded the team, and do you go in with equipment and a lot of, so you do research as well as clearing?
A lot of times, I had started on a paranormal team, so I learned a lot of things there, and then there was certain aspects that I wanted to add differently, because most paranormal teams go in there, they validate evidence and things like that, where I wanted to also help the spirits if they were stuck, to cross them over, or to help them understand, what's going on. A lot of times the spirits, believe it or not, religious-wise, if they found that they didn't do things in the right manner, they were afraid to go into the light.
Yeah.
So I started a team where we would go in and we'd bring the equipment, we'd, give them the evidence, we would help the spirits, and we would help them with the activity. And then we also have a blessing team, which does the not so nice spirits, where we go in and, we do a blessing. And so I have two separate, that we're all on the same team, but I have two separate groups that go out and, we don't just help the people that are there, we help spirit also.
Yeah, because it should be noted, most paranormal groups research and remove the entities. But there's no crossing over, there's no guiding them at home, there's none of that.
Most of them just take them off the property.
Well, not only that, is some paranormal teams go in there and they rile these spirits up, they provoke, which that's so disrespectful. You should go in there with respect for the spirits as much as you would for a human. And a lot of teams, we've had to clean up their messes, because even the ones that are on TV, we've had to done after they've done a TV show.
Yeah, when I watch those shows, I'm like the worst critic. Like, I can't even watch them.
Well, they rile them up, and then they leave these poor homeowners with all of this activity that's even heightened even more, and it's not
Most
fair.
of the stuff I've seen on TV, they just got the equipment there and sensing stuff. So my question is why didn't they ever have a medium there just to talk to them to see what's going on?
Yeah, well,
that's kind of what you do, I guess.
That's what we do. We do have, we go in, but we don't even, what we do is we go in, and it's, before I even go to a place, I don't know if you've ever heard of remote reviewing.
Yes.
It's when someone will give me, I'll talk to them on the phone so I could hear their voice and kind of tap in, and then ask permission to remote review what's going on there, and usually I can give them an idea of what they've been experiencing, and then we go in, and a lot of times they want to see who's there and things like that, but a lot of people don't want mediums to come in, like other team members and things like that on the shows. They should bring in mediums to see, because a lot of times they're just going for evidence. They're not going there. My first thing is, I want to tell your story, and they'll talk to you.
Now, you said something at the beginning when you started talking about, I guess, I don't know I can't remember how you phrased it, but it was basically the more negative side of some of the entities?
Yes.
Or
There are demonic entities that...
they're real.
They're real.
I've never had occasion to...
You've been very lucky.
You're very lucky. It is there. It is real. I actually took a spiritual warfare class with a Catholic priest to know the prayers, how to clear things like that, and do it the appropriate way.
Okay.
But yes, you're lucky that you haven't, and that's great. But they do exist, so we can't, where there's light, there's dark.
I was talking to some woman that called me up with a question that she felt she had something associated with her. And I basically assured her that because of the physical energy of her body, she had more strength than something in spirit form. And she felt that something had followed her home. because she had asked it to come into her, and I told her, just tell it to leave,
Right.
because she's stronger than it.
Right.
Basically.
And that's basically before we even go in, I will have them do prayers and do things. And if it doesn't work, then we'll go in. But usually now I just have to do it remotely, where I tell them, say this prayer for a few days. And if it doesn't get rid of the negative, then we'll come in. But we haven't had to, because the prayers.
You're saying negative, but is it negative or is it just normal? And they're just not used to it, so that's their interpretation of it.
No, when they're getting physically harmed and pushed and things like that.
And things get moved sometimes,
yeah,
too.
things get moved physically, then it's not an everyday, Casper.
I'd like the way that's, but in my experience, though, because I do house things as well, but, she does the more stuff. But, I want to say maybe 70-75% of the spirits are, good, or they're just earthbound, or they don't realize that their bodies died. Yeah. So that's the majority of them. A lot of times, sometimes it's because of religious reasons.
Right.
Sometimes they're afraid.
It is the fear.
Right.
Sometimes it's because, though, sometimes it's a murder. The person gets murdered, so it's a shock, like a very sudden death. So they didn't realize, though, the soul's detached from their bodies. So, there's a lot of that as well, though, too. But that's the majority of it, though. But, I mean, there's been lower level energies, though.
Exactly.
That's not so nice. And the thing is that they get their strength from fear. A lot of people don't realize that. The more fear you have of the spirits, the stronger they get.
Yes,
if you're not afraid, they can't do anything to you.
Absolutely.
So a lot of people don't realize that.
Right.
Yeah, I had one experience like that. I started remodeling a house, and strange things started happening.
Oh, yeah.
And because of everybody I know, I was at a class one evening at what's going on? And they said, well, there's an entity there. So I brought in Lynn Kent from Warren.
Yeah.
And it turns out that as a young Indian boy who had been killed by a hunter accidentally 150, 200 years ago, and he was there protecting the house that I was doing.
Right.
So his parents came in, he put his knife back in his sheath, and he went with his parents to the happy hunting ground.
Oh, that's great.
His name was Rushing Winds. He was born in a blizzard in February.
Oh, wow.
Construction can definitely bring up spirits.
He was there 150, 200 years.
Right.
So he needed help to move over the...
Absolutely.
But for him, though, he didn't realize he was there for 150 years.
Yeah, because they have no concept of time.
Yeah, spirits, it's the time in spirit that works differently than here.
Yeah, but I mean, he wasn't a negative entity or anything.
But what I'm saying is, though, he was, in our time, he's here 152 years. In his time, it was just the other day that he got shot and killed. In his perception of time.
Especially if they're shocked.
Yeah.
Sudden.
Yeah, if it's a very sudden death, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I've kind of an interesting, kind of what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, there's most of them really are folks that for some reason don't want to part from the property, or
It's home.
yeah, it's been in their families, or they worked hard to get it, and they just, or they don't know that they've died.
Yeah.
They, it's hard to imagine that you wouldn't know it, but when I think of ghosts, I think of them as people that are afraid after they've died, mostly. And I think of that one story, Ghost, with a little boy. I think it was, no, not
based
Ghost.
off the book, though, right? It was based off a book, that movie?
Yeah, and it wasn't the story Ghost. It was, I don't know. Help me here, if you.
Yep.
But he was a boy that was sent to see a therapist because he spoke to dead people.
Oh, the Sixth Sense.
I know.
The Sixth Sense. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And, meanwhile, I'm ruining it for you if you haven't seen it, but it's worth watching anyhow. Meanwhile, the psychiatrist he was seeing had passed away and couldn't let go.
Right.
And didn't know he was dead.
Right.
He still kept getting up and going to work and doing all the same things he did, and he was treating this boy. That was the only one that was really talking to him.
Yeah, and that happens where they don't realize that.
Yeah.
And some of it's residual too, where it's just replaying over and over. They have no concept that there's anyone else in the home or anything like that.
Yeah.
There's different types of hauntings, definitely.
Yeah, and the types, where the psychiatrist was talking to his wife, but she never answered him.
Right. Yeah.
She didn't hear him.
Yeah. Right. That was a great movie.
When we first started doing this show 25, 30 years ago, Scott Brown, who was a very accomplished psychic in Rhode Island, was telling me a story about how somebody had asked him to come to their house, and he went walking in, and here was an old Italian couple sitting at the table having tea or supper or whatever it was. And they just kind of looked up and saw the people coming into the room, and they continued doing what they're doing. And the woman said, well, we're having the police press them and all this stuff. Old Italian couple, they were so happy to be blessed. They weren't going anywhere.
Right.
So it depends on what they're
exactly.
If you're bringing something in to bless them, and it's part of their religion, they're happy with it.
Yeah. Right. So exactly.
Do you have any unusual or interesting stories that you could share? About?
We've had a lot of interesting cases. I can tell you one that was kind of a crazy case we had. We had gotten a call in from this mom her child was having night terrors, that's what they were calling them, and I had actually asked her if she could videotape, just do a little video of what he was experiencing, and she did that, and we saw that, and I'm like, oh, that's not night terrors. So we had gone in, and we get all these messages, you go and review and things like that, and believe it or not, I know this sounds crazy, but the woman, when she was pregnant, she had done a Ouija board, and actually a spirit had attached to the unborn child.
Oh,
I
my.
know, it sounds crazy, but this was our case.
It can happen.
So we went in there, and the little boy, it wasn't night terrors, it was more of a very negative spirit that was attached, and we ended up having to do a blessing. But the little boy, the first thing I did was sat down on the floor with him, because he was little, and I looked, and I walked over to the closet, and I shut the closet door, and he looks at me and he goes, "You can see them." And I said, "Yes." And I said, "And we're going to help you with this." And the poor little boy, after we did the blessing and everything like that, because we would even have the mom take pictures with her iPhone when he was having episodes, and you would see this little entity like right there, and we ended up doing the blessing, and he's had no issues ever since. But that was different, where it actually, a lot of our cases around this time is Ouija boards, because at Halloween time everybody thinks that it's a Halloween game, and yes, you do buy it in a toy store, but
it's not really a toy.
No. And everybody's like, well, if it's in a toy store, what would be, how could that be dangerous? And I said, because you're summoning when you're doing a Ouija board.
It's the intention that was originally put into the board.
Right, and I tell them, you're opening a portal, and you don't know what you're getting or what you're summoning, because sometimes they'll come to trick you and say something that a past loved one, it would resonate with them, and then, they allow this portal to be open. They don't know how to close it correctly.
I generally discourage Ouija boards unless the person actually knows what they're doing.
That's what I say. If you have a professional that knows how to do it, because there are people that know how to, I call them seances, whatever, but they know how to open, they know how to close. But other than that, Ouija boards can really reap havoc.
Yeah.
You had said something earlier about negative entities. Any particular happening with one?
We've had where, let's see. We've had places where things were getting physically scratched. I don't know if there's different demonic things like incubuses and succubuses. We've had cases where that's happened. I actually had one of our cases where, believe it or not, there was a nun that was doing her prayers, but she thought that one of her friends were actually an exorcist, and he had given her his Bible, and he had actually taken his life. And she was having issues in her place, and we went up there, and believe it or not, the energy that was attached to the Bible, but also his energy was there also.
Oh, boy.
And yes, I know it sounds crazy because he was an exorcist, but before he passed, he had told her, they finally won, the demons.
Oh.
So what she was doing is she had so much activity there. She was actually praying for all the souls that were in purgatory, but what she was doing was she was telling them to be released.
No, to come out of purgatory.
To come out of purgatory. So she had all of these entities that were there, and we had to do a blessing, and I had to tell her, please just stick to the prayers that you were taught and leave it up to God, who's supposed to be brought, up to heaven. But she didn't do it, just not knowing, but didn't realize.
She didn't tell them where to go, so they had nowhere to go.
Yeah, so they were all in her.
They were just kind of out there hanging with her.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they were probably put in that purgatory type place by the Catholic Church to start with.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
So
mean,
it
because
was
normally that's not something that people go to.
right. Exactly.
That's the thing
Ooh, it was crazy. You can't even imagine.
Yeah,
what was there.
this is the thing with a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's like you have to tell them where to go, though, because if you just tell them to go from somewhere, you got to tell them to go somewhere. Otherwise, they won't know where to go.
Right.
It's like,
Right.
You got to tell them where
So
to go.
She was releasing all
Her intention was good.
It was beautiful.
But she just
her
didn't
intention.
tell them where to
and
go.
I told her, and I said, just stick to the prayers that you were taught, and
Oh my goodness.
As a side note, I got a message a while back that I was thinking about Mother Teresa, and I got a message that she is working in the darkness to help with lost souls. So leave the work to the, that's getting done up there.
Yeah, they're doing it there.
right.
She's working with them.
Yeah.
And to help more of them come to peace.
Trouble is, as long as the church tells them that that's where they're going to go, they're going to continue to go there.
Yeah.
Even though it's not
You're right.
part of reality.
Yeah. Now, one thing I learned with an experience was I thought, because the church kind of says you could lose your soul to some of these demons, and I discovered you can never lose your soul. No one can ever take your soul. It's yours.
Right.
Unless you give it away.
Right.
I don't even think
I don't know if you can give it away.
Well, I've almost kind of seen that happen, though. But it's a little complicated, though, for that.
Your soul is probably the size of a shopping center.
It is, but
And we've got a very small piece of it inside of this body. So if this body believes that it's going to temporarily go somewhere else to have lessons and experiences of a purgatory, it will. But it's not gone. It's still part of the what would you call it, master soul of yourself?
This goes in part with, giving the fear away to the lower energies, and you giving the control away. So, you're not losing the soul. You're right in that regard, but it means like kind of like though no one can take I don't know what that's saying. No one can take it though without your permission.
Right.
So, the moment you take it back, though, it's yours again.
Yeah, you
know
can
what I'm
maybe
saying?
share the experience with a lower entity.
Well, I wouldn't recommend it, but
No,
But that's kind of what's happening.
But like I said, sometimes when people want things in life, they'll bargain with negative energies to get something quicker instead of just praying for it and let it come when it's supposed to come.
Yeah, there's all different layers of development, I guess you would say.
Right, absolutely.
Right, so we only got a few minutes left.
Okay.
Yes.
Which is a very quick half an hour.
Yes, it was.
How can people get a hold of you if they have any questions or want to make an appointment with you?
I do have a website, readingswithbrenda.com. I don't know if I can say my phone on the... Yeah. They can reach me at 508-768-8158, or they can email me at BLM.
Say that again slowly.
Okay. They can... I have a website. It's readingswithbrenda.com. They can go on there. I have all the services. Our paranormal team, SNE paranormal team, we do not charge. We do everything for free. And they can reach me at 508-768-8158.
Now, I understand you also have a store in Seekonk.
Yes, Sacred Space for Healing. I'm at 208 Taunton Avenue in Seekonk, Mass. But it's by appointment only, so please don't come knocking at my door.
What kind of things do you heal?
We do. I'm a Reiki master teacher. I do shamanic work also. I do the Munekai rites, which is the shamanic rites.
Say that again.
Munekai, it's the shamanic rites. It's shaman rites. And I teach multiple classes. You name it, we do drumming circles, we do meditation and mediumship circles. I do an intuitive circle, so people that want to tap into their gifts, they have somewhere to go and feel comfortable.
That's neat.
Yeah, so we do a lot of different things.
It occurs to me to ask, do you occasionally look for people to join your paranormal team?
We do sometimes. I'm actually very, the people that I have, it's like I don't want to have to worry about others where I know where they...
You know they're good at what
yes,
they do.
Yes, they do.
So they're safe.
They're safe. I don't have to worry about anybody. We do guest paranormal, like people, we do have guests, like people can come as a guest when we do events or things like that.
Okay. Now, I'm curious about your classes. Joe Average walks into your class, and there's 20 Joe Averages. How many of those 20 people are going to be able to develop their gifts or develop a gift?
If they, whatever their intention is, if their heart is open to it, they could absolutely tap into anything.
Most of them, or some of them? Or
most of them, I would say, at the meditations that I've had, they've all experienced something, and then they've opened up to it. So anybody who opens up can experience.
If they want to do it, they can.
Absolutely. They're there for a reason, and they were divinely guided to be there.
I like that. That's kind of neat.
Yeah.
One of the simplest things is to look at somebody and see an aura. If you relax your eyes, and once they experience that, they become more relaxed at trying everything else.
Right.
If you stand in front of a mirror in your darkened bathroom,
Yes.
and just kind of relax your eyes and look at the mirror,
You see
that's a
it.
good way to start the process.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the energy work that you do about making a ball and feeling it and seeing how far out you can go before you don't have it. And
It's a good thing for the kids to learn too, the energy ball.
Very good openings.
Even meditation.
I guess we're running out of time. I can't see the clock. Another really neat thing is get two people facing each other and stare into each other's, I think it's the left eye. And at a certain point, you start having an exchange of
Thoughts.
of something.
Right.
That's a good beginnings gift, toy, whatever.
Yes. Yeah, I took a class where we all sat opposite each other and then rotated and kept going.
Right.
After looking in each other's eyes. And I was surprised at what I was getting.
We had a gentleman come into one of the spiritualist churches from New Zealand, and he started 17 churches and trained all the mediums for it. And